Hey guys, welcome to another
Hey.
episode of Politics But Make It Fashion. Come interview with us. And happy Sunday, everybody. And today we
Happy
have
Sunday.
John Howe here with us here in the, I guess the virtual studio, And he is
Yes.
running for Scranton City Council. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Chelsea, go kick it off.
Okay, so I'm just going to read a little bit about you to our listeners, to our audience. And from your own words, you said you can be labeled as many things, but what really resonates the most with who you are is a father, a husband, a student, a coach, an activist, and student. So I feel like we're putting a lot of emphasis on student.
Yes.
And now you're looking to add the title of city council member to that list as well. For too long, Scrantonians have been burdened with politicians who self-serve interest rather than the public's interest. You are looking to change that and to help restore the faith in the local politics in Scranton.
Very bold.
And I'm here for it. Yes, that was the best bio I've ever read.
Well, I wanted to give an honest depiction of who I am and why I'm running. And I didn't want to just be the old mainstream, I'm here to make us better, or, I'm a dad, or I'm a husband. Like, I really am a student. Like, I'm a graduate student, and I will, for the rest of my life, continue to be a student. I don't believe that we can learn enough in our lifetime, and we'll never be knowledgeable enough unless we continue to strive for more and gain as much as we possibly can. I don't want to be a genius, but I always want to continue to learn. So even if I'm not in a brick and mortar school or an online school, I'm still a student. I'm a student of life, and we're going to learn things as we go. So I always tell my kids, no matter if you're an athlete, if you're a musician, you're an actress, always be a student of life and always learn and always strive to know more. Because even culturally, the more we know, the easier it is. Like, we're able to be empathetic, and we're able to break these cultural boundaries, and we're able to come together as one human society. I am sorry, that is my child's phone.
It's okay.
So I always educate yourself. We can never read enough books, and we can never learn enough about ourselves or somebody else. And if the more we know, the better that we can become as a society.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my mottos, is to be a lifelong learner. I definitely believe in that. What are you in school for?
So I am currently my master's program for applied behavior analysis with an emphasis in organizational behavior management.
Wow. What is well, I know what that is, but tell us what that is.
Okay, so applied behavior analysis is I guess it would be like its own subcategory of psychology.
Yeah.
Where most people commonly find it attributed to dealing with people with autism, and social skills, trying to help break barriers for social skills and learning and things of that nature. The ultimate goal would be to become a board certified behavior analyst, where you could deal, with those kids who might have ADHD in class, or they have an IEP. So there's a RBT that goes into class with them, or a BHT or a BT, behavior tech.
I was a BHT. So
right,
that's
so they
what
go into class. So you know exactly where we're going.
Yeah. So Chelsea, these two, because Chelsea's actually thinking about going back into school.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was just gonna say, you have no idea how much what you're speaking to is resonating with me, specifically with where I'm at right now. Okay. You're basically kind of preaching to this choir inside of me. And I feel like super convicted even just listening, but you're right. I feel like the mentality of being a lifelong learner and constantly striving to gain knowledge really does affect the way we live, but also the way we see people. And especially if you're going to be in some sort of leadership role, I really respect that passion that you have to really, really constantly be educating yourself.
Absolutely.
And I like people that take that mode where you are on my side too, as well as social work, because when you get into those behavioral analytics types of things, you care more. I don't want to, maybe don't care more, but you're more empathetic towards people and their plight. And I think it gives you a really good basis to kind of understand where people are coming from. And then you can use those in ways that people don't think about, like public service, going into politics, or like I was an HR director as a social worker, or just different things that you can do with that background, because you have such an emphasis on psychology and learning and therapy and counseling and learning and working with people and stuff. And being a BHT in the school system here was an experience.
I bet.
So
That's
I
what I
actually
wanted to
have
try
a super controversial question right off the bat because
Okay.
of your area of focus of studies, especially with dealing with different I guess the appropriate word would be learning disabilities or cognitive dysfunction. I don't know what you would call it. But do you believe that a lot of the ADD or ADHD that we're seeing, and even the high functioning autism, do you believe that that's a nature versus nurture thing that we're kind of encountering? Or do you kind of see it as like people are born with that? Or are you kind of, with all this, I've been looking a lot into this because there's people I know personally who have ADD or who are high functioning autistic. And I've found it very interesting, the different articles and studies that they're doing on, like, actually, we found that diet can really affect the like, I guess the
behavior. Yeah, because Jacqueline's allergic to red dye.
Yes.
And red dye can cause behavioral issues in a lot of kids, and cause them to act out in a way that mimics ADHD or ADD, to where they're agitated, they can't sit still, they're irritable, they're maybe not sleeping well, and those are side effects to the dye. But I think that's such a great question.
And gluten too is like really, it's basically toxic to people who struggle with autism. They've found that it really can make it more pronounced and more effective. And then also too, they're finding that the environment with which people who have been deemed to be autistic, high functioning, or ADD is also attributing to it, like lack of structure, lack of kind of like your basic thing, like somebody like yourself with kids might be like, okay, my kids go to bed at 8:30 so that they can get the 10 to 12 hours of rest needed per their age group. Whereas sometimes they're seeing kids with autism or ADD or ADHD, they're finding that like they kind of like go to bed whenever, wake up when, like there's no structure. So I'm curious, as you're in this field and you're studying, right off the bat, let's just get into it.
Yes,
do you find those studies to be of any sort of validity, or are you kind of more like, no, it's a scientific genetic type of thing?
Well, again, I'm a student, so I'm a learner, and I do have my own opinion. So this is not professional. In our field, everything needs to be scientific. Like it's down to the science. Whether you're talking about Cooper, Watson, anything, when we're talking about things like that, we are science-based. But as a human being, I know, like, especially with the stuff that even was going on with, like, I think it was Monsanto and stuff like that, with the GMOs and like the fertilizers and all this extra stuff that we're getting in our diets that are toxic to our bodies, that is going to cause a biological reaction. So it is going to come down to a science.
Yeah.
But I believe that it is also more of our current system of like where we're getting our food from. Food insecurity is a huge thing. So we're doing our best to try to, let's hurry up and make sure we have more and more and more and more. And we're going to try to make the perfect food, the superfood. But that's not how our biology is made up. So now I believe we're seeing since then, we're seeing a lot more issues with ADHD, ADD, with autism, with ASD. And I have a son who is 6 years old, well, 7 years old. Last year, he's smart as a whip, 125 on the IQ scale. Like, he'll do all the work, but as soon as he's done, like, he's gone. Like, his attention is out there. So we figured, well, we go ahead and have, you know, the testing done or whatever. So he's ADHD, they say, and he still goes to bed at 9 o'clock every night, even after football practice. I mean, he plays a ton of sports, football, basketball, baseball, and he still is on a schedule. He gets up at 6:30, he goes to school, but he's having some behavioral issues in school because of he just needs to be moving all the time.
Yeah, that downtime, that free time.
Back in the day, we say, he's a 6-year-old boy, he's a 7-year-old boy. That's what they do, you know. But when you look at, like, I wish that I could afford to go on a completely like great diet that is like fresh, grown out of my garden. There's no additives or anything like that, because they do impact us chemically, you know, biologically. Like you said, with the red dye, you know, that does. I know that my sister-in-law, her kids cannot have anything with red dye in it. She's not even trying it. You know, I just don't want that. And this is what it is. And they're healthy, they're smart, they're active. Gluten, another thing, you know, stuff that is toxic to us that we're going to be ingesting or feeding our kids and we don't know yet, is causing side effects, causing these types of issues.
And don't go down the rabbit hole of clothes, guys, because I made that mistake and I wish I could close that door back. But I think we're going to be staying away from red clothing because I already knew, like, it leaks whenever the first time you wash it. So you're thinking in your head, like, obviously there's dye coming out, but not when you're putting it on and you're sweating and now it's leaking into your skin, and different things like that. And I have a girl, she loves pink, everything, like, you know, everything could be pink. Half of it's pink behind me, and then trying to figure that out. And I think what Chelsea was saying, in our school system here in Scranton, a lot of the kids don't have a good structure at home because they're housing insecure or they're actually unhoused. You know, their parents are having whatever issues across the board, whether it's just financial, divorce, you know, drug use, any alcoholism or anything. So like, you have these kids who don't have food every day, don't have bedtimes, they don't have anywhere to sleep. They, you know, they're couch surfing, they're trying to figure out how they're going to get to school. And they are going to have issues that are going to translate over into that. So I think it kind of like, I think it's both, you know. I definitely feel like as an adult, I have ADHD. Like, my leg is shaking. I'm constantly, I stem all the time. But I definitely know for me, I do need a structure, and I do like to have, you know, everything really organized. And that's partly, I am hurt. Like, don't get me on my pros and cons list for everything.
True.
Well, you know, and also a little known fact about me is that I was also that kid, and I did have behavior problems as a child. You know, unfortunately, up until the age of 8, I was in and out of foster care, or my mother would have me. And, you know, she had issues with drugs, you know, different boyfriends in and out of the house, no food. And I remember going to John Adams Elementary School, and I was in
kindergarten. That's where I was a BHT.
Yeah, I was in kindergarten there. And this is when my dad finally found me. I would be walking around at night because she'd be gone. And I'd just be walking in the bars. Hey, is my mom here? My mom there? My mom there? So my uncle seen me one night at a bar and said, John, I think your kid's here. And he's like, well, follow him, you know, see where he's going. And found out what house I was at. But I'd be sleeping on my friend's back porch in the middle of winter just because it was literally right across the street. I'd watch wrestling with him. And then, you know, it'd be time for him to go to bed. His mom and dad would be like, okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
You gotta go.
And, you know, I was always brought up with whatever happens in this house stays in this house. It's nobody else's business. But you knew, I had clothes that were too small. I wasn't washed. You know, I was definitely malnourished. You know what I mean? And I'd go to school I didn't want to be in class. I wanted to go for breakfast.
Right.
And I wanted to go for lunch.
Right.
You know, and then I'd have problems because I felt like school was only there because I needed it. It was a necessity for survival. right? That was my outlet. That was my only safe space in that point in time. And, you know, I don't really tell too many people it, but, you know, it was like, honestly, I mean, I was picked on because I was the kid who's wearing the high water jeans, you know, that were 2 sizes too small, going into the lost and found, trying to find a t-shirt, you know, that day in the principal's office, you know, so that way I'm not wearing the same t-shirt that I wore yesterday. And not to take anything away from my mother. I mean, she had her own demons that she had to deal with, and she had kids at a young age. But my behavior when I got with my father, I wasn't used to nurture, love. You know, it was more of I know how to take care of myself. I'm 18 years old, but I'm 30 years old in my mind. And now you're sending me to school, you're telling me I have rules. No. So I had a lot of time going with counselors and kids peace and Scranton counseling, because they're like, well, is he bipolar? Is he ADHD? Is he ODD? What is he? You know, and like there was never a set determination. After unpacking everything, finally in my late 20s, you know, I realized, you know, I just had some childhood traumas that you never expect are traumas. You don't understand their traumas when they're trauma.
Right. And there's so like the list of trauma is so regular. Right. You know, so it's like divorce, it's moving, it's changing schools, it's, you know, your parents dating somebody, all those things that are so regular in our lives, but those are each one of those things you need to go to counseling. Like each one of those things are on the ACEs score, which is Chelsea, that's the score to show like if you have childhood trauma or not. I'm going to send it to you so that you can do it, and then you can have the same amount of like guilt and shame that the rest of us do.
I mean, I feel like our parents are so traumatized, so I feel like our generation all has trauma, but like, yeah, specific, like, and as a kid, you can't verbalize that. You can't be like, well, I haven't seen my mom in 3 days, which makes me feel super insecure and like unsafe. So like, but you're going to school and your teacher's like, why can't you sit still? Why aren't you being quiet? And you're like, how do you can't say that. But I feel like that might be a little bit of an answer to some of my questions going forward. So you're definitely originally from Scranton.
Yes. I'm originally from Scranton, and there we go. I'm originally from Scranton, and in high school, my father moved us to music, so I went to Riverside High School and then came back to Scranton after high school. So for elementary and junior high school, I was in Scranton.
Now, would you say that part of what you went through as a child in Scranton is kind of giving you the push or the passion to pursue politics? I mean, in your bio, you said that a lot of the politicians are serving their own self-interest as opposed to what's good for the people. And I feel like I can jump to say that that is a problem to you as someone who is a part of the Scranton community. But do you also feel like that's what's giving you the passion to really pursue the city council, to really kind of make a difference in what you experienced it from childhood on?
So everything that happened to me as a child definitely has pushed me to where I am. All my choices, good decisions, bad decisions, led me to the person I am today. And one thing that always resonated with me was standing up for everybody. You know, I have brothers and sisters, and one thing my dad always taught us is that you stick up for everybody. Don't be the bully. You know, be the one to protect the people from the bully. And as I got older, I started to realize that that form of protection, it means different things now. Now the bullies can be the ones who have the power to pass legislation, right? When we're talking about equity, equality, education, we can be bullied with the stroke of a pen. And I'm not your typical guy who's going to run for office. I mean, I'm a big guy. I might seem domineering. I'm a big teddy bear, but I might seem like a big mean guy when you first see me. And, you know, I can't sit by and allow things to go on that I'm uncomfortable with, that I don't approve of. and just let it go and just complain about it on my couch when I'm reading the paper tomorrow morning. So it's put your money where your mouth is and believe that there are changes that can be made. And I'm not one to just serve a self-interest. I have kids. I had lost all selfishness the moment I got married and had 2 children. And nothing is about me anymore at all. And I just really want people, it's sad to see as you're going around and you're trying to get your signatures, kids 18, 19, 20, 23, 27, men, women, 30 years old. I don't do politics. What do they do for me? They're not doing nothing for me. And it's like, no, don't do that. I understand the feeling. I understand my vote don't count. It's 1 vote. Who says they're even counting it? Hey, you got to have faith.
Yeah.
You know, I just know that if you vote for me, or even if you don't vote for me and you cast your vote for who you believe in, that is just one more step that you can take.
And on the local politics level, it
impactful.
is those little votes.
Yes.
Like there's so many races. One of this guy that I met, he's running unopposed in Wilkes-Barre, you know, for a seat. There's people who have won in our area in Scranton, Lackawanna County who've won under 100 votes. Yes. So your vote does definitely, absolutely count, especially, you know, I can't promise on the federal level, but I can speak for local politics to where your vote does count, and it definitely can actually do things that can happen right here today. You know, your sheriffs, your mayors, your city council, your school board, your controllers, your tax person or whatever, all of those things, you know, are so important, and people win by very small margins. And that can, you know, we talk about our taxes in Scranton and, you know, our roads and our lack of school funding and different things, but those could all be solved if we had more people who were casting the vote, who were 18, 19, 20, you know, years old, especially minorities in this area, because if you start counting all those younger people, you know, you're going to get a lot different picture of what it's going to look like.
And no politicians that I know of, maybe one, Glenn Catman. Well, he wasn't a politician, but he tried to run for office against Mark McKendry for sheriff a couple years ago. And none of them are going to Skyview Project.
No, none of them go
Project.
Down there.
How many of them have been to Butters Barbershop? You know
none
what I mean?
Of them.
Like, here I am. I'm in there. I can go in there. I don't care. I grew up in these projects. You know what I mean?
Hey, Maddie.
Like,
hi, baby.
You know, you're cutting off a big portion of people who feel like they're not being represented. Now,
right.
I might not be an African American. I'm just a Caucasian white guy from Scranton. You know, Irish, Italian, Polish. You know, I'm just a mix of Scranton, and I'm still comfortable going into Blueface Global Hookah Lounge.
Well, they're not.
And they're not going in there. They're not putting their signs up in there about events. They're not talking to everybody.
And it makes me so mad. And I've told people too, I've said, like, if your office is in West Side, I should not be the only Black person at your campaign event. Like, that's disgusting. You know, where are the Black and brown business owners in this area? And why aren't you going to these places? You know, why aren't you going to Paradise? Why aren't you going to West Side Flavors? Why aren't you going to Loyalty, to Butters, you know, to all these places and being immersed into the community and see how people live? You know, you're out there getting signatures in places that are frankly scary. And a lot of these people would be clutching their pearls to see how every day Scrantonians are living their life, trying to survive on $25,000 a year. And, you know, and having food insecurity where you're shopping at Dollar General for groceries.
Yes. And that was me. I mean, that was me up until about 6 years ago. Me and my wife, I mean, it wasn't easy. And even in my whole life, I mean, we were low class, you know what I mean? Projects, trailer park, you know what I mean? But our parents did the best they could. But you see the struggle. You grew up in the struggle. Like, hand-me-down clothes. Thank God I was the biggest one. You know, because I had the biggest shoes. So I had the biggest foot, I get the new shoes. You know, I had the biggest waistline, I get the new pants. I get the new t-shirts. but it, you know, heat on with the oven. We can't afford oil this month, so we got the oven open, electric heat. And you know,
Hey, that oven heats that house real fast.
Quick, yes.
Quick.
And you know, it's like a lot. I feel like a lot of people who are in politics, not that they're rich, but they just come from a different type of background. Like I do believe that they work hard to get what they got. That nothing was handed to them.
Yeah.
They still had to put in the work.
But they
you
don't know what it feels like to
sometimes
not
their
be able
rock
to
bottom
pay.
is a little bit different
Yeah.
from my rock bottom.
Right.
My rock bottom might just be 2 inches a little bit smaller or more deeper than, you know, somebody else who might be an opponent. And then, you know, the next person might have 6 feet deeper than my rock bottom. They might have gone through some really, really crazy things to try to get where they are. But the good thing about a leader is that they need to be able to lead for everybody, not just one demographic. Like if I'm going to be a city council member and represent the city of Scranton, then I need to represent everybody down to, you know, even the homeless population, you know, from the homeless people to the people who live in Greenridge with the nice big houses and you know, they're going to private schools. I need to be able to represent everybody adequately. And in order to do that, you have to be out there and conversating with them. You have to figure out where they're coming from. And if I can go to the projects, I mean, finally I moved to Greenridge. I don't have a big old house, but I live in Greenridge now. I felt like I was George and Wheezy moving on up. But, you know, but you notice it's the same thing as when I was living in West Scranton or when I was living in North Scranton or when I was living in South Scranton on Prospect Ave, or, you know what I mean? It's all the same people. We're just in a little different area in life.
Yeah.
You know, we have a little bit different opportunity, and, you know, being able to have that background, you're able to understand everybody. I mean, I was getting bag lunches from Sister Adrian, you know, summertime in the projects. I'm getting a toy from Sister Adrian. First time I went to a beach was with Sister Adrian. Washington, D.C., the only time I've been to Washington, D.C. was with Sister Adrian. Friends of the Poor, you know, and that
I remember we had talked about that, and I do, this is nothing to do with it, but I would love for us to try to get something like that again with like the, you know, with city council, with school board members and stuff, and take kids down to DC. I think the first time I went, I was in 3rd grade with my school. But it's one of my favorite places in the whole world. So I think Chelsea, we were there together, weren't we? In DC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, John, I feel like I wish that I lived in Scranton so I could vote for you, because even I have no clue where you stand on policy, but just even hearing about how you are in the community, talking to people, that you want to represent everyone fairly from the tops of the tops to like the lowest income, I think is so important. And I feel like that kind of gives us an idea of what makes you interested in politics. I do have a question for you, and I wonder why city council specifically, like why this avenue of politics specifically for you?
Well, it was a toss-up. It was a toss-up for me between school board, because I'm very into education and youth and trying to get them the opportunities that they need to be successful. Or it was city council.
Especially with what you experienced while you were in school, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. So it was a toss-up between the two. And some people, when they shoot into politics, they shoot a little too high. They shoot above what they're capable of handling. And when I sat down and thought about it, I said, you know what, school board, I could do school board. I could be ferocious for Scranton School District. I could be such an advocate for these students and for the parents and these teachers inside the district that's easy for me. I need something that's a little bit scary, but I know that I can do. And city council it's a little bit scary. I mean, City Hall is imposing. You know what I mean? And just the vast majority.
And there it is imposing, yeah.
And you look at it and it's like, that's Scranton history right there. Like, this is historic. Like, I drive by and I tell my kids, Dad's gonna work in there one day.
I love it in there.
I'm like, yeah. that's going to be daddy's workplace. You know, really the workplace would be the streets because I'm going out and doing what I need to do. But once a week, at least you'll see me in there, you know, on ECTV. But yeah, so Scranton City Council, I felt like it had everybody included. Like we can hit the teachers, we can hit the students, we can hit the workers, and we can hit the school district. Or, you know what? I know that there's a couple good people who are going to get on school board and who are already on school board. And maybe we can come together. I can be a part of the other branch of the tree on city council that we can make an impact with Scranton School District together. And not only am I just hitting students in the future, but we're hitting taxpayers and people who live, reside, and work in businesses and have vested interests in this community. And we can work together with the school board, perhaps Marky Dennebaum, you know, when he gets on, even McAndrew, you know, these some
when
good people, I think,
gets on. Yeah.
So, you know, and then we can all come, because I don't like how the school board and city council is separate. I feel like they're always push and pull. Like if we don't raise taxes, we're raising taxes. If we don't raise taxes, we're going to raise taxes. Yeah. We need to get on the same page, you know, because money's just going out. And if we work together, anybody, if you come together as a cohesive unit and you're on the same page, even though you might not have the same beliefs, you know, we're going to do great things for a large group of people who need the help. They need representatives who are going to stand up for them instead of for an agenda or for a political party. You know, I was registered Republican. I was actually trying to run as a Republican. Now, don't get me confused. I'm a Republican, but I'm not an extreme. I was a Republican, but I was not an extreme Republican. Like,
so you're not a MAGA.
No, I was always told one way my whole life, this is what you are. So this is what I was. Yeah. But as you get older, I was like, okay, well, I like Marty Flynn. I think that he does good for his constituents in the city, in his area. I'm voting for Marty Flynn. Yeah. You know? Now, a Republican is going to be like, whoa, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? I don't care about whether you're a Democrat or you're a Republican at all. It doesn't bother me. I like Kennedy. You know, Kennedy, I like Reagan. You know, I like them both. You know what I mean? So if you're going to do what you're supposed to do, and properly represent the people that are putting you in that position and not feel like they are subservient to you now. Yeah. Then I'm going to say, you know what? That's the person I'm voting for. Yeah. What's your core values? What are your goals? You know, where do you see yourself? Yeah. Where do you see, what do you view the people as? You know, do you view them as one side versus the other? I never want to be that. Right.
And on the local level, it's so important too, because I think that for me as a Democrat, if I was representing this area, I'm not going to be a Democrat from New Jersey. You know what I mean? Right. I'm not going to be so my beliefs and your beliefs are still going to be based around the area that you come from. And for us, it's a small town area, small town feel. So I feel like our politicians here have that similar background. So it doesn't matter where you come from or which side, because, you know, we have the same kind of scope and view of the world from here. And I think that's okay. Like, I think that Democrats from places like California are representing their people who want those things. And what we want here is probably going to be different. And I think that if more Republicans and Democrats really looked at it as, I'm serving this community and what they want and what they need. And that might not be in line with another party in a different state or in a different city. And that's okay. Like, we can all be here. You know, I was emailing Senator Rosemond from this morning talking about our Legion and stuff, you know, and also I love Marty Flynn. Right. So, you know, so there's people who are doing really good work and who are kind and helpful across the board. When I interned for Senator Blake, one of the things I loved about him was his reputation, because everywhere you went, people loved him, you know, regardless of
designation.
Yep, they loved him. They thought he was a great person. And he was a social worker. And I think coming from that background of being, you know, people oriented, and that's kind of the basis where you're coming from is really, really important.
Yeah, and that's why I switched to independent. It's like I don't represent one side values. Like, you're a woman. Who am I to tell you what to do? Right? I might have my own beliefs. I can tell me what to do. I can try to instill values in my kids that lean along that way, but I don't care. You know, as long as you're not breaking the law, like, and you're out here destroying my house and burning my car and trying to break in my house. I mean, you want to have an abortion, birth control? I don't care. You know, that's not me. I don't have to have a kid. You know, I can take part in making one, but at the end of the day, the decision's ultimately up to my wife. You know, if she's just like, or if she's like, oh no, this is my beliefs, this is what we're doing. I can't tell my wife what to do. Are you crazy? I don't know any man.
And you have to think about then, how do you then support those people, and what's available in this area? You know, so in this situation, where would your wife go for prenatal care? You know, how much would that be? You know, where would she go to get her ultrasounds, and what happens if she's high risk? You know, now she needs a high risk doctor, and how much is that going to cost? You know, there's so many factors to where it's like, you might not, if you don't believe in something, then let's support women and let's support the people who are going through those things regardless, you know. Because
we have to have equity. Equity is the most important thing. So if it's good for one way, then you have to deal. There's always two sides to a coin. And they're both the same size, same diameter. You know, they're not going to change. If you're going to do for one, you have to do for all. So like, I think that a lot of people get caught up on well, no, this is my belief, I don't like this. So that's it. Once it's a no, and you don't agree with it, everybody else who might be going through it or supporting it, they're just like, well, they're crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. You know, they're just radical, or they're something else. And I'm just like, no, man, like, I have an opinion of whether I like French toast or I like pancakes more, right? I like French toast. You like pancakes. If we go to Denny's, can you get pancakes? You know, you can get pancakes. I can get French toast. You know, they serve both people.
Right.
They need both of our money. You know what I mean? They're going to serve us both. And you have to find a balance between doing it. You can't just automatically go with what you want and what you believe, because you might be the minority in that.
Yeah.
So you might have to open your eyes and say, well, you know what? The people spoke and the people said this. We don't have that type of leadership, and it's not that type of representative nature in our politics. But I think you would get so much further if you actually sat down, listened to the people, and said, okay, this is what they're telling me.
Yeah.
And this is what they're telling me. Now, can we find a common ground? Can we compromise? Can we come to the compromise here, the way you're going to be happy and you're going to be happy, and let's move forward with that. Most people, if you bring them to the compromise, nobody's ever going to be fully happy.
Yeah,
but they can be content. They can say, you know what, I can deal with that. I can handle that. You know, as opposed to saying, no, we're just going to build a wall for Mexico. Mexico's going to pay for it. How are we going to force Mexico to pay for a wall? You know, instead of saying, hey, listen, maybe us and Mexico can get together, figure out this issue together. Because now it seems like you're just trying to push one thing as bad for one side that's good. And I never agreed with it. There's good and bad everywhere. Let's just come together and figure out how we can handle it the proper way, instead of trying to alienate people or belief systems and just disenfranchising generations after that. Because once you do it to one, now that person is going to teach the next generation, this is what it is. And then that next generation is going to learn it. This is what it is. So now we have to deal with 3 generations of what we just implemented. And it's going to be a lot harder than moving forward the right way.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and John, you know what? I think that's so important. I think that's something that's so important, kind of, that you're hitting on. This is Amber and I do this literally weekly. We have very, very strongly differing opinions on a lot of different things. Something you just mentioned on abortion. I will never, ever, ever be like, well, and okay, just to kill the kid, just abort the baby, just end the pregnancy. I will never be for that.
Right.
However, that being my belief system and Amber being very pro-choice, we can still come together under the goal of like, ultimately, we should, hopefully we don't even have to even have a conversation of abortion versus not abortion. But
Right.
ultimately, right now, whether I disagree with abortion, Amber agrees with abortion, but ultimately the goal is the same. We have a lot of women who don't have access to proper prenatal health care. What are they supposed to do? And even though it's against my belief system, I can still 100% be open to the idea that that's a literal fact. We have a problem with that. And that ultimately, hopefully, the goal is not to like have a kid and have some random adoption agency sell your child for 150 grand when there's so many families who want kids. There's so many families who want kids, and there's so many families who cannot literally physically afford or in any way, shape, or form able to raise a child with even like dental care or whatever the case might be. But ultimately, we can definitely come together on the goal, even though we have different belief systems. And I think that's something that, and I'm just using that, it's expensive, but I feel like that's something that I could not agree more with you on, that like, whether we have the same belief system or different belief system, we can still hopefully come together with a common goal. And the goal is for the overall good of the people, whether you're from, I'm not familiar with the Scranton area, but whether you're from Greenside or North Scranton, whatever the case might be, like ultimately what's the best for everyone. And I think that that's incredible that is something that you're able to articulate and verbalize, because that's something that is missing in politics hardcore. And I think that Amber and I talk about this every week, like to some extent, to some issue, we're always like screaming about this side and screaming about that side, and no resolution is ever found because we are not able to come together. Nobody wants to come together and say, hey, the goal is the same, the belief system is a little bit different because your ego and your ego, so now we can't whatever. So I think that that's incredible that you are running for city council and you're able to say that, like, hey, different belief systems, common goal, let's get together and make it happen for the overall best of Scranton. And that's something that I think a lot of your community can probably get behind. With that being said, what would you say? And it sounds like you are an extremely passionate candidate and you have a lot of compassion and empathy and also awareness of what's going on in your community. But what would you say your overall main goal would be with being on city council for Scranton?
I believe that my overall goal would just to be my tagline, my slogan is a champion for the people, right? So that's kind of tacky. It's kind of tacky, but it's directing us to the point. It's not to be one-sided or to be the other side. If we were all the same, everything would be very boring. So my goal is to get the interest back in, like we need to have some pride back in Scranton. With our younger generation, we're getting up, we're educating them. We have great universities here, very astute people that go to school here and educated people. They're not staying here. And why is that? The reason is because we're really not offering. Our infrastructure is lacking. We have resources by way of actual salary jobs outside of a university, a hospital, or being a lawyer. You're not really going to get a great paying job to live here in Scranton and raise a family. Our taxes are outrageous. And I think that we do have some wasteful spending that we can go ahead and we can bring back and rein in. So we need people who are going to take control of the budget. We're going to stick to our guns. We're going to figure it out. And we are going to need to think 5 years ahead rather than what's next year's audit going to say. We should already know that. And I feel like now, currently, we've had a lot of players in the game who are just going with the flow, like, yes, no, yes, no. And I'm not that. I'm not just going to wasteful. I'm not going for wasteful spending. I'm not going for things that can be taken care of elsewhere. Grants could be going elsewhere and properly. I want the money going where it needs to go, so that way our infrastructure gets to where it needs to be. Our education gets to where it needs to be. And, you know, we don't have to keep on overburdening our taxpayers. I mean, I'm not dense. I know that taxes increase, you know, they're never going to decrease, but there's ways around it. And and
there's a difference between your taxes going up and you seeing the fruit of your thing. Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say.
Where we have taxes going up and I'm like, why though?
This year we had an increase, and yet, you know, we're seeing a lot of stuff. There's a lot of people going around pointing out a lot of things. Weston Field pool didn't open up until late in the season. They all still,
and somebody ended up paying for that. Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah.
You know, it's like we're not getting the resources we need. We're paying, and we're not getting it. So when we do go, I want the people to know that I'm just not going to say, I'll get back to you. You know, let me check on that. You know, because I'm already going to have a good idea what your questions are beforehand, before you come up at City Council on Tuesdays. And I'm going to have the answer ready for you. And I'm going to say, this is where it is. I looked it up. This is what's going on. It's not, oh, can we get back to you? Can you do that? When you have me, you have somebody that you can reach 24/7. I am literally a public servant.
I already have an issue for you. That Kaiser Avenue situation. I totaled my car and y'all need to fix that.
Oh no, where was that? By the triangle?
Yeah, where you're trying to get on 11 to go into yep.
Right there where they had them. Didn't they just put like new lights there?
And every day there's a bumper. Every day there's
Yeah, listen, I mean, overall, I'm being long-winded about my goal, is that the change that I'm going to make is that I am actually going to be out there with the people. I'm not going to hide behind an email. I'm not going to hide behind a phone call. You're going to have my face. You're going to know where I stand. And you are more than welcome to talk to me anytime you want about anything. If you need information, I will get it to you. People are going to have more access to politics inside Scranton City Council than they've ever had before, because I literally have no problem going and having a cup of coffee, going to have lunch, and we can discuss things. I love it. I love getting out and talking to people. And I will do my best to represent every single citizen that resides within the district of Scranton, the city of Scranton. There's not, you're not going to just see me at these fundraisers, and you're not just going to see me at a Touch a Truck event or on Main Street doing, you know, landscaping. You know, that we have people that do that and they do a good job. And you're going to see me when I'm just walking down the street and I knock on your door and say, hey, I'm Councilman John Howe. You know, you have anything to talk about? Got a couple minutes? Got any concerns? That's what people aren't doing.
Yeah, I love that.
Facebook or email me. You know, we don't have that depth of personality anymore.
Well, you know what? I want to encourage you, but I also want to kind of speak to it. I think that a lot of times people who end up in politics don't have the same leg up, if you will, that you have in the sense of your history and your background. And I think that a lot of times we think of like growing up in foster care and growing up food insecure, housing insecure is a little bit of a disadvantage. I think in this case, it can absolutely be an advantage because, like, for example, when you're talking about wasteful spending, people who have had money don't know how to scrimp and save, don't know how to cut costs that are ridiculous. When somebody has literally been like, I have to make this package of ramen noodles last for a week, talk to me about
ramen noodles.
Period. But like, talk to me then about like figuring out what's the most important thing and putting funds towards that and getting rid of things that are literally eating up budget that make no sense or no difference and have no benefit to the people of Scranton. So I want to encourage you as you run for this, because you absolutely have an advantage. And listen, if you've never been hungry, you don't know. You have a different edge about you. And you also have an incredible mentality that you're working with.
And none of the people on council, I love some of the, like, Jessica is one of my friends. I love her. Her baby is so sweet. But none of them have been there. None of them have been in a struggle. When I went out for city council, I talked to them about not being able to afford to park downtown. and stuff, and everybody was like, oh, that's a real thing. Like, that's an issue when I want to go do something and I have to think about, okay, well, where am I going to park? Or do I have money to park downtown? Or, all those things, like, you have to pay to get into City Hall because you have to park.
You have to park.
That's a disadvantage, and somebody who's coming from money and I'm not saying wealthy, but they're not going to understand that, they're not going to understand the struggle. We need people in there who speak Spanish. Like, we need people in there who can translate things, police officers who speak Spanish, yes. Firefighters who speak Spanish. We need so many things. And it's, the people that work there, a lot of the times when people think about wasteful spending, they think about people's salaries, but the salaries of like the average people that work in there is like $30,000. I remember arguing with city council about giving the women in my office a raise. And I looked at one of them, I said, I'm never going to argue with you for somebody who makes under $40,000. I'm not going to argue with you about it because that's stupid and that doesn't make no sense. And you sitting over here with your $1,000 a month, and sir, how much do you make? Where do you live? Okay. And we were looking at the budget and you worried about somebody who makes $30,000. That's what you're worried about. Okay.
You can't even $1,000 a month apartment with $30,000. You can't be comfortable. You can't have a kid. If you have $30,000,
well, what they do is they bank on you having a spouse. They bank on, as a woman, you're underpaid. They bank on you having a spouse who makes more than you. They bank on you having a spouse who you can be on their insurance. They bank on that. And I mean, like, that's verbiage. That's word.
That is really bold.
It is.
Girl, it is, especially for me when I'm like, I don't have a husband. Who is my insurance?
Right. And I tell people all the time.
Specifically statistically, we're seeing people not get married and be single a lot longer. So that doesn't even make sense. Like, you're not even statistically accurate. So please come correct when we're talking about budget, because you're not. But that's a side note. But so I feel like that is an incredible goal that you have for your city. And I think it's absolutely one that the vast majority of people can get behind. But with that to be,
you're breaking up, Chels. Well, I wanted to ask you, did you have anything else you wanted to throw out about you running still, about politics? Because I wanted to ask you questions about other stuff.
Politics, I mean, I guess I can leave it at this. I am the unseen portion of Scranton, right? The underrepresented portion of Scranton. And I think that Scranton needs, they always talk about West Scranton, Scranton as a whole, blue collar, pick you up by the bootstraps. I come from the real other side of Scranton that nobody wants to talk about, that nobody wants to step foot in, that nobody ever wants to, and I don't ever want to see anybody in Scranton even have to be considered from that part of Scranton or that side of Scranton. I come from a totally different side than people are used to. And I think that people are gonna appreciate that. Because I'm not gonna be the person who is just, had all the breaks or had decent luck or had a good family upbringing. I've been through the struggles. I've been through many struggles, and a lot of people have. But again, I don't know anybody who's been on Scranton City Council, anybody who's been mayor, anybody who's been, state representative in this area, who had to get those brown bag lunches and go to the Oxy and deal with, stuff, Boys and Girls Club, and, just so your parents can work for less than minimum wage and, still be able to be a good student and, grow up and learn from all your mistakes and implement that. You need somebody who's a problem solver. And I've solved many problems in my personal life, in professional lives. I've done a lot, and I am not going to stop just there. Like, it's going to be a lot more, whether it's city council or it's just being a coach with the North Scranton Vikings with the little 5 and 8 year olds. Start from the bottom. That's what I do. That's where I run football camps that are, free for people, because they can't afford to go spend $30 on Matt's quarterback camp this weekend. But you know what? They can come and they can learn some fundamentals and learn 3 things: friendship, football, and fun. That's it. You know, be have your opportunity to be a kid, you know, and we do it for free. And, you know, we do provide lunches and things like that. I'm not a big person who puts everything out on social media and goes around and takes a lot of pictures. I know
you need to.
I know you told me that. I know I should be, but that's not me. I do it, I think, for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I don't do it for the glory. I don't do it for the fame. I do it because I love the city, and I have.
But more people need to know about what you're doing. I didn't know that you had a free football thing. See, so that you put it on social media, and I can see it, and I can share it with everybody.
Yes.
So that more people can know.
Silverback football camp.
Yep.
But you know, I mean,
thank you, John. I can't with the social media. I can't.
I'm not I just don't like, I think like your life needs to be private to a certain extent, right? So it's like, you know, even with coaching.
Well, I don't ever think of, are you like, okay, football, let me get the camera. I don't even think of it. Like somebody will be like, oh, you should put it on. And
Chelsea,
you're like,
I've had a camera, like, I remember I used to always have my I had my throwaway cameras, and then I always had my digital camera.
Kodak moments.
No, I don't.
No, I never think, no. Same,
because you know what, I'm leaving,
right
I believe I'm leaving a memory with kids.
Yeah.
Right. And that's my big goal. I love the youth because they are going to be the next step. And with that,
100%.
you know, you get them, you plant that seed, and then you teach them that, listen, there's a good guy out there. You know, I might have problems at home, but I know I can go to Coach John and he's got me. If I need a mouthpiece, he's got me. If I need a water, he's got me. If I need something to eat because, you know, maybe things are tight at home, I know that Coach John it doesn't matter. We'll get something to eat. We'll go out, even if your mom just needs a couple minutes just to herself because she's had 5 kids running around all day, you know, and she just needs a break just to take a shower. I'm there. You know what I mean? Like, I got it. There are people out here, we're a community. We come together, and if we don't teach it to our younger generation, and we don't instill those memories and those morals and principles in them at a young age, then when they get to be our age, they're not going to care. They're going to only care about themselves because they're going to say, what has somebody done for me? You know, what?
And nobody's looking out for me. Mm-hmm.
So
got to look out for myself. Yep.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, we pay it forward through our younger generations. And I'd rather leave a memory in their mind that's going to last a lifetime rather than a picture on Facebook that's going to disappear when I delete it. You know?
Period.
You know, that's just that's me.
Oh, both of you guys are annoying.
Well, listen, Amber, you do a great job. You do a great job.
Seriously.
I'm not good like that. I'm not that good at it. Like, I'm okay. We're at football. We're going to leave football. We're going to get kids home who can't get rides home. Get them home. We're going to come home. We're going to eat. We're going to shower. We're going to read our book. We're going to go to bed. You know, I can't be like, hold up, drop your kids off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Hold up. They just scored a touchdown on the play. You know what I mean? I can't. I don't even have my phone with me at that point. You know. But don't worry, when I'm out here doing stuff in the community, I'm gonna try to start taking more pictures, and you know, when I'm talking to people. But you know what? A lot of the people probably don't have social media anyway. Because a lot of them I talk to are older.
Yeah.
And because they're the only ones willing to talk, it seems like they have a million things to say. They know. And you listen to them.
I love that.
You know, because they're not just talking. They're giving you the game.
They are.
You know, so yeah, I just do that, and then, you know, maybe they talk to their friends, and then they talk to their friends, and I just want it to be authentic. You know, I try to be as authentic as I can be with them. And hey, you mind if I get a photo? No, I don't.
There you go.
You know, hey, listen, I know. My manager says it all the time. He's like, come on, we got to get photos. I'm like, I'm like, they can take a picture later. We'll be good.
So I wanted to ask you about clothing.
Okay.
So as you're on a campaign trail, you're running around, you're a big dude. So how do you feel about big dude fashion? Like,
we don't have enough
available,
of it.
What's not available? You wear a lot of colors, which I do like, and a lot of big boys stick to black and grays and stuff, but you have on the vibrant colors and stuff. So like, you know, we talk about female fashion all the time. We talk about women's like more plus size fashion and the lack thereof sometimes. So what is it like on kind of the guy end?
Okay, so clarity, honesty. I wear 6X shirts, right? So you don't get a big variety. Like this shirt, Reebok, nice. I had to go to Wilkes-Barre, right? It's moisture wicking. It helps me breathe. After my back surgeries, I blew up like 300 pounds. So I became a big guy. I was already a big guy, but now I'm a super plus. And I think that if you're not wearing colors or designs, you're crazy, because I'm going to own it anyway. No, it doesn't matter if I'm wearing black, if I'm wearing gray, if I'm wearing navy blue, you're going to know when I walk in a room.
Oh,
You're going to feel it. You're going to feel that shift, right? So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to now, yes, I'm wearing a nice bright shirt. You're going to see me. How you doing? My name's John. You know what I mean? And I think that we don't have enough fashion. Big guys, we're starting to get more things out there, like DXL and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And some more.
Can you
bigger
shop
guys
online? Like if you have to go to Wilkes-Barre, like from here, so what would other people have options? Say they lived in Scranton and didn't have transportation or anything. Like, do you guys have online fashion available?
Yes. DXL has online where I do order stuff. I wouldn't recommend ordering a suit online. Go in and get fitted. You know, I mean, because there's a difference between neck sizes, arm lengths, what actually fits around your belly, and them love handles. You know, we're big men, we got it. And you know, but yeah, they have. I mean, I bought my swim trunks, 2 pairs of swim trunks from there, some nice sneakers, you know, some nice shorts, some like fabric, like wool shorts.
Yeah.
They're nice, they're comfortable. You know,
I saw when I was at John Adams, one of the things that was just sad there, we had some big boys and they just didn't have the clothes available to them to, like, you know, to dress there and be comfortable, to dress your size. Like, you want to wear something that fits you.
You don't want to wear those tight shirts.
No. And I felt bad. And I was like, I wonder what, because I know some of them are probably having to go through the lost and found and different things, but there was a couple big kids that I was just like, oh, baby, I want to take you and just,
yes.
I don't know where to go, but we're buying clothes. Like, we're getting shoes, we're doing something.
Well, you know what? Me and you are going to have to team up, because there's no reason for big boys, husky boys, to not be comfortable in their own skin and in their own clothing and feel like they're put together when they're out. They should have their head high the whole time, no matter what. And, you know, that goes for women too.
I feel like that with like plus size women too. Like, and I hate to say it, but I'm just going to be real honest. I feel like so many of my clothes come from Shein, and they say that like fast fashion is such a problem, and that like a lot of these clothes have a lot of crazy chemicals in them, and that the people who are facilitating these clothing factories are not well paid. And then I'm like, okay, but now what? Because if I go to Old Navy and wear some crazy like 75-year-old teacher pattern dress, not only am I big, now I'm big and like real like I don't even like that type of stuff. Yeah,
right,
so
you look
because
like the
I'm
teacher
a
you had
size
in 3rd grade.
16, I can't be you. But so like what is the middle ground? So I'm right there with you. I'm like, yeah, I got this at Shein, because guess what? They have a size 16 and it's got like a fabulous dramatic puff sleeve, and it's a coral color. It's not black or gray or like some bizarre old lady pattern, and I'm wearing it. So I'm with you. It's a struggle. It ain't easy out here. If you're like above a size 12.
Listen, I know that. I know when I used to be so fit. Like,
but I do love that color. That's like my favorite color you're wearing.
And they can't. I was so easy to find clothes 10 years ago, and then I started, you know, getting my back injuries and stuff like that, and I needed the surgeries, and then being out and literally gaining like 300 pounds. It was ridiculous. And I mean, I'm down 100 pounds now from it, but gaining 300 pounds, I blew up. My clothes needed to change quick.
Yeah.
Like, it went from a 2XL t-shirt to I need a 4X.
Yeah.
And then it got worse. I need a 5X. Well, they shrink in the dryer too much, so I need to find a 6X. You know?
Right.
So it's like, oh my goodness. And it was, and the money.
Yeah.
I like Shein. My wife shopped at Shein because, like you said, she's a curvy girl. She got some curves to her. She got some hips. You know, she's a mama of 2. And, you know, she's not, you know,
which I love, by the way. Good for her.
Yes, and I see Shein packages coming. I'm like, again? She's like, wait until you see this top. I'm like, okay. You know, wait until you see these
But
pants I got. Wait
also,
until you see
wait
this
until you
dress.
see what I spent for the top. Wait until you see what I spent for this top.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
right. And it's
spend $200
pennies.
on Shein, right? $200 sounds like so much money, but I also got 25 shirts and 3 pairs of
Yes,
shoes and about 18 pairs of earrings.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, my shirt
Just
here
saying.
cost me $45.
Right, right.
Oh,
You
Yeah.
know? Like great. Yeah.
I would die.
Yeah. My wife's like, really?
It's a
I'm
great
like,
shirt, though, John. It's a great shirt.
hey, listen, I like my pastels. I like my bright colors. I mean, it's summertime. I'm a
Yeah.
big believer. Summertime, you wear your bright clothes. Fall, you get more into your purples, your browns, your oranges, you know, stuff like that. And then you go in the
Absolutely.
winter, then you're really on your darks, you're in your navies, you're in your
Yeah.
tweed brown jackets, you're in your blacks, you know. Spring comes around, now you're with your pinks and your magentas. And I got a little bit of style sense. You know, my
Okay.
wife
All I
told me
can
was well
say
put
is
together.
mother freaking vote for John. Okay. Period.
You know, I have an uncle who is a fashionista, and he put me on to Johnny. You need to look good, okay? So
Yeah.
this is how you do style. Your shirt needs to match your shoes. You know, you got to have color coordinated. You need to wear a belt. And if you're wearing this color shoes, this is the color belt you need. If you're wearing this color jacket, you need this. He put me
I
on.
love that.
He put me on at a very young age. So my wife asks me for styling tips. She's like,
Yeah.
I think this will look good with this. What color do I wear with this? And I'm like, you should wear this with this. But if you're gonna wear that navy like that, I wouldn't go so much nude because it's just gonna be bland. You need that little pop. You know what I mean? You need something that catches. Yeah, unbeknownst to many
more
people, I have a little
politicians
style
need to
sense.
wear color. I think they need to. I think political style needs to kind of evolve. You know, like when Obama wore his tan suit out there just being fine, you know, but I think people should wear more colored blue suits, you know, salmon, pastels and stuff like, you know, and I see some of the younger male politicians, because there's a new sneaker caucus that Chelsea and I had talked about, where they created both Republicans and Democrats who wear sneakers to the House, to the Hill and stuff like that and everything. So I think it is evolving with millennials and older millennials and stuff, and us trying to just not necessarily wear blue suits and black suits. I mean, I love black. I could probably live in all black all the time, but yeah, so I think more guys should definitely be into it. But thank you so much for joining us on Politics of the Make It Fashion. Come interview with us. Is there any last thing you would like to leave with our listeners, and also tell them where they can find you?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you guys again for having me. This was awesome. It was a great experience, my first ever actual interview. You guys took that from me. And
you heard it here first, people.
Yes. So that was great. And for, you know, the people listening, which I hope that we get thousands. Okay. We're going to get thousands to listen.
Yes.
And, you know, I just want you to know that if you're looking for the same old song and dance, you're not going to find it here. Okay. I'm not going to be the guy who's going to sugarcoat things and who's just going to tell you what you want to hear and vote for whatever I want to vote for. Okay, you're going to get a person who actually cares. I care about you. I care about your children's future. I care about the future of the city. I have kids and I want them to stay here. I don't want to have to travel 3 states away to go see my grandkids someday. You know, I have roots here. I want my kids to be able to be here if they want to be, and not because they're forced out over a job, you know. So that's me. I'm always going to have your best interests. You know, it's not about me. It's not about my goals. I don't have many goals other than to give the people an opportunity to have a voice, a true voice. And I'm not just talking about select people. If you live in the projects, if you live in Green Ridge, if you live in a 3-bedroom apartment, if you live in a trailer, if you're in the homeless shelter because of some things have happened, whatever. I'm here for you. You can always stop and talk to me. So if you ever see me on the street, I'll always have my pin on and I'm always wearing something that stands out a little bit. You go ahead and approach me. I'm very approachable. And if you need my number, you can call me. At any time, I have numbers, I have cards, I have everything. But right
What
now,
is what's your Facebook? It's is it John Howe for Scranton City Council?
John Howe I think it's for Scranton City Council.
Okay.
Let me just make sure. John Howe for Scranton City Council.
Okay, on Facebook.
On Facebook, yep. So you can go there, you can find me there. Monday through Thursday, and on Sundays, you can catch me at the North Scranton Vikings football field. So it's that football field. If you're driving up the expressway to head to Dixon City, the one off to the right there, I'm coaching football there. So don't be ashamed to come up there and say, hey, listen, coach, you see me with the little guys. I'm the one wearing the bucket hat.
The little ones are so cute with their little helmet. It's bigger than their little body.
You gotta do this. I know.
They're so little, and their little helmet. And then there's always like one big kid who's just like big for no reason. And then there's like a little tiny with this big helmet, and they have like.
Yeah. So yeah, you can see me there. You can reach me on Facebook. You can email me at jhcitycouncil@gmail.com. And you can call me at 570-230-7974. And text me, call me, come see me. You want to have lunch, even if you just need somebody just to talk to. Doesn't matter. Just come up and have a conversation. I'm always available. Always available for the people, always available for the children.
Oh, well, thank you so much. This has been such a great interview. I'm glad that we were your first interview.
Yes, me too.
I hope that people reach out to you and make sure that you get registered to vote for our election coming up in November. It's not just the big elections, it's the local elections. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of people who are running unopposed. There's a lot of people who are running that you don't know about yet. So definitely look out for information. And you can find us on Instagram at Politics But Make It Fashion 1. You can find us on TikTok at Politics But Make It Fashion, and our Facebook page, Politics But Make It Fashion Podcast. And we will chat soon. Bye.
I think